Hello. Today we're going to show you how to extract three different strings of text from one cell and place them into three different cells. So as you can see here, we've got one cell that is, the one column that is full of three different texts, strings that, in this case, we have the first name George, last name Washington, and then we have some dates associated with that. And we want to pull those out into three separate cells as we see here. And so there is some calculations that you can use in Excel to do that. So the first one we're going to use in this case is we're going to use the left command. So in order to do that, the first thing you type in is equals, and then we will type in left, then we'll open parentheses, and we're going to tell it which cell we want it to calculate. So we want A4, which is the cell that John Adams is in, comma, find, because we're looking to find something. And in this case, we're looking to find the space. So we want to find the space between John and Adams. So you're going to tell Excel to do that by opening up quotations, pressing the space bar for the space, close parentheses, comma, the cell again with which you want to find that space, in this case it's A4, close parentheses, and now we want to make sure that we actually delete the space because it will be included in this calculation. So in this case you want to hit -1 and then close parentheses. Once you've done that, you can hit enter, and there you have the word John. So if you want to now place your cursor over John, and if you move your cursor over so you can see that the cursor changes to a solid black cross. When it does that on that bottom right hand corner, just click and drag, and you can drag that down, and you will see that it will pick all the first names out of the calculation. And that's the easy part of just showing you how to do the first one. So the next one we will do is we will show you how to then take the middle name, which is a lot more complicated, out of this particular string of text. Okay, so now we're going to pull out the middle section of the string of text. In this case, we have Washington, Adams, we'll have Jefferson, and so on. And this one's a little bit more complicated, so I'm going to type out the whole string, and then we'll come back and look at exactly how it works. So for this particular function, we're going to use the mid function. So we're going to type in equals mid, open up your parentheses, use the cell, which is in this case A4. Then we're going to find first space in A4, close parentheses, and then we're going to use the plus sign, +1, comma. We'll explain that in a minute, so don't worry if you don't quite understand why we're putting that in right now. Again, we're going to go find, open up parentheses, quotation marks, find the space, comma, again A4, comma, find, open up parentheses, quotation marks again, comma, A4, close them. We're going to have +1, close parentheses, then a -1, then minus find, open up parentheses, quotation mark, space, quotation mark, comma, again your cell, close your quotation, your parentheses, and then close it again. And then once you've done that, just hit enter, and there you will have it. It will pull out the entire cell, it will pull out the middle section of the cell and place it in here. And then the same thing, if you just click and drag down, it will pull out all of the middle names. So let's go back and look at the cell itself in the calculation to see how that looks. Okay, so I've zoomed in a little bit more so you can see how this formula looks and exactly which section of the formula does what. So we can see from the first part of this formula, we are looking for the first space in the text. So we did this pretty much in the first example of how to pull the first one out. So we're looking for the first space in the text. The next part of the formula here is that we are looking for how many characters from the left the second space is. So in other words, between Adams and the first parentheses of the date of 1797. So we're looking for that space, and that's the part of the formula that looks for that specific space. Now you'll see we also have a -1 after that, is because again we have to delete the space after that second space between the S and the parentheses of 1797. We need to get rid of that space. And then the last part of the formula is we then need to delete or subtract all the characters before the middle name. And that's what that last part of the formula does. And so once you've done that, then you just click enter. It will actually pull that name out again. So next we'll move on to pulling out the last part of the formula, which is the date. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and pull out the last string of text. In this case, it's the dates that are associated with each name. And for this, we're going to use the right function, because we're going to be starting from the right. So we're going to go right, and then we're going to open up our parentheses. And again, we're going to tell it where we want it to pull the information from. So again, A4, comma, and we're going to use the lin function in this one because we want to determine how many characters are in the cell. And again, we're going to open up parentheses and tell it A4. Then you go into close parentheses, minus find, open up parentheses, quotation, space, quotation, comma, again, the cell, A4, comma, and then we need to find, again, quotation, open, space, quotation, comma, then we're going to A4, close, quotation marks, plus 1, and then close quotation and close it again. And then if you hit enter, it'll pull out the date. And the same process again, if you drag, it'll come down. So now we've pulled out each section of a cell and put it into 3 different ones. So let's take a closer look at the cell again. In this case, let me make that a little bit wider so that you can see it. Now it's going to go a wee bit more. There we go. So again, we are pulling from the right hand side, and we are going to count the number of characters that are in the cell. That's what this part is. And then we are going to find the number of characters that are after that specific space and subtract that number of characters it takes to get to the second space. And that's what that second section is. And then simply enter and you find it. The main thing is that if you don't understand it, you don't really have to. If you can then just copy these specific cells, or this specific formula, down on a piece of paper, put it away somewhere, you will always have the capability of knowing what the formula is and how to use it. So it's very easy just to take each one of these, write them down, and all you have to do is change the actual cell number for the cell that you're working with. And so one of the things we mentioned is once you've completed all 3 calculations or all 3 formulas and placed them into each cell, you can then click and drag them down, and it will quickly and easily pull out all the information and place it into 3 separate cells for you. Now, one of the great things about this formula is that no matter what happens, let's say you want to change, let's say George, and you may want to add something in there. So let's say if we said George 888, and then we also wanted to change Washington. Let's just say we put a bunch of things in the middle, and then we also change the date at the end here. Let's just put in, and hit enter. You'll see that all of those cells change with what you've just done. It won't actually truncate anything down and delete anything of that nature. It will actually change along with it, with all the changes. So it's a great tool that you can use to show that no matter what happens in those cells, the cells that you've actually pulled the information into will reflect all of those changes.